Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Tim Osman, The Plain Truth, Stephen Chess, Sleeping Warrior, Milu, Mark Doxy, Jose, Goldomo, sorry about not pronouncing your name correctly, and Chocolate Saying. Good to have you all.
Howdy.
Hola.
Hello.
So anyway, has any flat earthers ever tried to replicate the Cavendish experiment?
Why would we want to replicate something that we don't believe in?
That's a good question, I guess. You don't believe in it? Why don't you believe in it?
Because we understand that gravity is a presupposition that is based on observation with no experimentation and simply theoretical musings.
So what's the Cavendish
So
experiment?
I guess actually the Cavendish experiment is the experiment and the evidence, but really the question is, I think actually you're having an issue that most flat earthers do in the conflation of what we call gravity and mass attraction. So if you don't want to believe that there's a mass attraction, then that's fine. Don't say that you don't believe in gravity.
Oh, that's fine. I can say that. I don't believe in gravity because... Hold on. I'll just address that for Tim. So, Tim, you said that the Cavendish is an experiment, did you say?
What's my null hypothesis? What's
your observed phenomena? Because an experiment would be the expression of a hypothesis, and a hypothesis is trying to establish what your presumed cause and effect relationship is.
I don't want to hear it, Nate. Come on.
Well, yeah, okay. I don't care if you want to hear it. You're claiming this is an experiment, and an experiment is a hypothesis test. So you can't say, well, what's your phenomena? Well, the experiment is the phenomena. Now, it doesn't work like that, you absolute retard.
Well,
Stop being such a broken record, man.
Sorry, broken record. You don't like being beaten, Tim, and that's what I am doing, beating you. If it is an experiment, you cannot claim that the experiment itself is the observed phenomena, you retard.
Why not?
Because that is not how science works. You don't affirm the consequent. That is a fallacy. You retard.
So science has never discovered something on accident.
No, science establishes an observed phenomena and then formulates a cause and effect relationship through hypothesis with an independent and a dependent variable. Once you have established this, you then go forward and perform an experiment. What you don't do is perform an experiment and claim that the experiment is your observed phenomena. This does not happen by accident. People do not formulate scientific hypothesis by stumbling upon a formulated scientific hypothesis. This doesn't happen by accident, you idiot.
All right, now that that's out of your system, I did want to, basically what's happening here is Nathan is going on...
You haven't addressed anything, yeah? You just ad-hommed me, rather than addressing the fact that you've got a formal logical fallacy, which is to say you affirm the consequent by claiming that your experiment, in quotes, is actually your observed phenomena. You're too stupid to acknowledge it, so you're moving on, Tim.
Pressure is the force applied...
Oh, we're moving on to pressure now? I thought we were talking about the Cavendish nonsense, where we have an experiment that is also claimed to be the observed phenomena, Tim. You're not going to address this, you're going to move on to something else?
Technically would be the surface of the Earth. Just letting you guys know that for next time.
Sorry, are you going to address what I've just said to you, Tim? Your experiment is not your observed phenomena in science. This is nonsense pseudoscience bullshit. Do you understand that?
So saith John Stunge's
Not
right-hand man.
John Sunger. I'm saying it to you right here, right now. My name's not John. My name's Nathan Oakley, retard. I'm telling you, you don't understand science, even though you Muppet Globeheads think you've got science behind you. You haven't. What you've got is a fallacy.
Just
This
let him talk
experiment is not your observed phenomena. Until you acknowledge this, Tim, I will make you look like a retard for the remaining part of this show.
Whatever makes you feel better, dude. But anyway,
No worries, you're a retard, Tim, because you don't understand that the Cavendish experiment is not an observed phenomena. The experiment doesn't come first to prove your phenomena. The phenomena comes first, then you formulate a scientific hypothesis, then, and only then, do you experiment to establish if your independent variable that you hypothesize is actually the cause. That's how it works in science. What you're doing is performing an experiment and claiming that it is the observed phenomena. Now, I don't mind going through this 10 more times with you, you retard.
have you ever
What's
read
the basis?
Henry Cavendish's like 600-page report?
At no point in his 600-page report will it change the definition of the scientific method, which it does not conform to.
How
What
do you
was
know
the
it doesn't if you
observation?
didn't?
Because it's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy, like I've just explained to you. You start with an observed phenomena. So if you want to take us to the observed phenomena that demonstrates objects of mass attracting one another, without going to, oh, well, a banana falls out of the banana tree, then you're going to be a bit screwed to actually demonstrate how this experiment proves your bullshit made
This is
up
embarrassing,
phenomena.
man. Jesus criminy. This is
Invoker.
embarrassing.
Yeah, it is embarrassing for somebody who doesn't understand science, which would be you globeheads, who haven't got the vaguest notion what you're talking about.
I have a question for him as because he seems like a smart dude. But yeah, so what isn't it true that
Really?
Cavendish must have known about the idea of the planets orbiting the other the sun based off what Newton and Kepler had come up with, and
Sorry,
the
did you
measurements
say
were
orbiting? The word orbiting is based on a presupposition of having an R value that you measure for Earth. Do you not understand the word orbiting?
Can other people talk, man?
No, not when they say the word orbiting, because orbiting presupposes a spherical Earth with the stars moving because Earth turns. That's a presupposition. Another logical fallacy.
What the?
Yeah, what the fuck, man? How the hell am I going to get around all these logical fallacies that we use to prove our bullshit fantasy? Oh no, man, it's really difficult getting past Nathan on these. He spots them every time. What are we going to do?
I heard the word idea.
Hang on a minute, Nathan. Somebody just said that Kepler came up with measurements.
yeah he did some measurements which were not precise or completely accurate, but it definitely started to make sense of what these planets were doing, and
Sure.
then that's when
Have you got any
Newton
evidence
had
for
come
these
up with.
measurements?
I'm sorry.
Do you have any evidence for the measurements that you claim Kepler made?
I'll link this thing I found. It briefly explains it, but it just explains how he noticed that if he drew imaginary lines from planet to the sun, it actually broke
I heard
out
the
to an
word
equal
imaginary.
area of space in equal
So
times.
could you just clarify, is that a yes or a no? You do have or
Yes,
do you
yes.
not? Put it in the link and let's have a look.
I said it is
Have you
brief.
not
It's
looked
just
into Kepler?
Yeah, I want to see what the claim was that Kepler had measurements. I'd like to see what evidence there
Are
was.
Well, he
you
tried
really
to
don't
make
know his measurements, Anthony?
Yeah, I know exactly what Kepler did, and I know that he didn't do
Then
any
why are
measurements
you
whatsoever.
asking rhetorically to the
It's
other
not
dude in the
rhetorical.
Because
panel?
we're going to demonstrate where I've already pointed it out, Tim, and you went, oh, fucking hell. When I pointed out that it's a logical fallacy that is based on R. We had this yesterday, you struggling to understand where you presuppose R, Tim. Maybe it'll sink in by the end of the show.
Nath, do you want a screen share so we can
No
go through
worries.
this citation?
You're up.
Where did it go? This is the link that's just been given, and what we're going to do is look for whether he measured anything or whether he calculated anything. So Kepler's laws of planetary motion. While Copernicus rightly observed that the planets revolved around the sun, it was Kepler who correctly defined their orbits. At the age of 27, Kepler became the assistant of a wealthy astronomer, Tycho Brahe, who asked him to define the orbit of Mars. Brahe had collected a lifetime of astronomical observations, which on his death passed into Kepler's hands. Brahe, who had his own Earth-centered model of the universe, withheld the bulk of his observations from Kepler, at least in part because he did not want Kepler to use them to prove Copernican theory correct. Using these observations, Kepler found that the orbits of the planets followed 3 laws. Brahe believed in a model that the universe with the sun orbiting the Earth, but the other planets orbiting the sun. In an attempt to prove his theory, Brahe compiled extensive astronomical records, which Kepler eventually used to prove heliocentrism and to calculate the orbital laws. So the claim was that he measured, and I've just looked through and found that he calculated. So would you like to reconsider your position or provide other evidence of measurements?
So these
No,
are
you just have to-
scientific laws, first of all.
I don't
And second
care.
of all, he's taking
claim was he measured.
observations.
The claim
So
was-
are they not measurements,
No.
Riley?
Yeah,
calculation-
measurements based on a presuppositional value of R. These stars aren't massive distances away orbiting around a spherical Earth unless you presuppose the Earth is a sphere.
Jesus.
This, Nathan, look,
This is embarrassing.
like many other philosophers of his era, so they would be people like, let me think of the word, I can't even remember the
Tycho
R now.
Philosopher.
Aristotle, Plato, Socrates. Kepler had a mystical belief. Sounds a bit like one person we know, doesn't it? That the circle was the universe's perfect shape and that a manifestation of divine order. Bloody hell, this is sounding a bit wishy-washy. But again, the claim was that he measured. So unless you got any evidence,
can you read
of
that again?
measurements
Let's
from
have a read
Kepler-
about. This sounds like Mystic Meg. It sounds like something they give you as a disclaimer at the beginning of the stars in the
Yeah, it
newspaper.
does.
Well, if
Sounds
you
like
guys
one
see,
would-
Shut up
Is there something
and listen to what it says about your idiot
the
that you think is performing science.
Look again. Look.
Yeah, read that off of
Look what
NASA
it says,
some more.
Dave. It says, eventually, however, Kepler noticed that an imaginary line drawn from a planet to the sun swept out area. So he's got imaginary lines, mystical beliefs, and he's got calculations. And you're claiming that Kepler measured something? I'm not sure.
You'll
Yeah,
find
that's-
this guy's a
that
bit like
imaginary line that you
Nostradamus.
speak
He's
of-
a bit like Nostradamus, isn't he? He can make predictions, but there's a
No.
special
That's silly to
kind
say
of
that, guy.
prediction. That special kind of prediction is called a hypothesis. It predicts an independent and dependent variable in a cause and effect relationship. That would be called a scientific prediction. This is not a scientific prediction. This is akin to Mystic Meg. It doesn't actually mean anything because anybody can put a prediction out of their air and draw magical, mystical lines between things and claim it's a prediction.
Based on his visions. Right, so we've got Kepler's third law.
Wait, Anthony, look at the very bottom. Look at A, R, G, H, R.
Hang on. I'll get there. Kepler's third
getting
law
there.
shows that there is a precise mathematical relationship, otherwise known as a correlation, between a planet's distance from the sun and the amount of time it takes to revolve around the sun. Sure, but where's the distances that were measured?
What is it
Right,
I say
like
to
you
you,
said,
Anthony?
relationship.
Anthony, what is it I
It's
say to you when
relative-
you blame M. Scott Veitch because there was a correlation between a document being taken down and him saying that he was going to sort something out? What is it I say about correlation in that instance?
Correlation is not causation.
That's correct.
Damn.
Well, it doesn't have to be causation now.
Oh, really? Even though we're asking for scientific evidence, cause and effect being established, it doesn't have to be, you say? It can just be
What they're saying is
pseudoscience
there is a
and Nostradamus
correlation between
predictions.
the distance-
Mystic Meg can make your predictions, can she?
Yeah, the distance in the orbit.
Is that your
So what he's
response?
saying
Is that your response?
that's-
Hmm.
Well, I'm trying to answer you. The correlation here is just saying that the distance is showing that
We don't give a crap about correlation. We're trying to establish causation, you unbelievable muppet.
Sound like a psycho, bro.
Yeah,
What's wrong
I've
with
got
you?
dicks like you who have got beliefs. I've got zealots on the panel who don't understand when they beg the question of R.
You're the only
You're
one
too
that's being
stupid, Tim.
vitriolic here.
You're
You.
too stupid to know when you're
Yeah.
begging the question.
Great.
And we're here to tell you, retards, when you're being stupid. Yeah?
Yeah, you're just telling us that you deny everything. That's fine.
No,
if
you
you wanna-
have a
people-
presuppositional value of R that you adhere to. You don't even know when it's being used.
Do you think that do you really think that's stupid to talk about the distance that these things seem from the sun and then the orbit, the orbital path, their
Where'd you get the
orbital,
distance?
I think it's
distance?
stupid to claim
Where'd you
that
get the
somebody
distance
measured
from?
them, and then when
Where do
producing
you get the
evidence
distance
of
from?
position, it's
Hello?
stupid.
Where do you get the
Imaginary
distance?
lines.
Where'd you get the distance?
Where do you get orbit?
Yeah,
Well,
where'd you
I
get
told
orbits?
you guys. I
Where'd
told
you
you
get
guys the other
distance?
day about how
Sorry,
we could find the distance of the sun and the
Questions.
moon.
Two questions. Where do you get distance? Where
I'm
do you get
telling you right now.
orbits? Where'd you get orbits?
I'm telling you right now.
Where'd you get
Jesus.
I described the other day on how to get the distance from the sun and the moon without using really any expensive equipment. You can do it at home.
Yeah.
And you guys, talked over me and shut me up and all this other stuff. But it's really quite
Wasn't
simple
that based on a
stuff.
radius of Earth?
And
Yeah,
there he
well, it's
goes
based
again.
off the measurements of the Earth. Yeah.
Sorry, so it's based on a presuppositional value of R, the thing we keep asking you for scientific evidence of. That you say, no, it's cool, man. No, man, Mystic Meg told us about it, man. It's all cool.
Yeah, presuppositional
way-
mathematics. I love that. That's
Yeah,
funny.
presuppositional mathematics based on you assuming a value of R, Tim. Yesterday, we had all sorts of instances when you didn't even know you were doing it, and I had to point out to you where you were assuming R.
Just filibustering.
In the same way in this article, how it says Kepler went over a lifetime long of measurements, or long of observations of these stars.
Observations,
That's
not
what he used to
measurements, my
measure this
friend.
stuff, okay?
Yeah, there's more to the scientific method than just making an observation. That would be step one. Observe a phenomena.
I don't know why you're
Kids
here,
that listen to
Tim.
this stuff.
Why are you here, Tim?
Because he's got girly ankles and he loves being here.
No, there was a globe earther on here trying to act like he knows stuff and making a fool of himself. So I just wanted to come on and actually say something.
First time I agree with
Much
him.
appreciated.
So about
Not
the
you, dude.
measurements that you claim Kepler measured, do we retract that statement or not?
Well, when you guys say he imagined them in his head, and I say he measured them, maybe we can come to a more clear understanding of what actually happened.
Yeah, no worries. We can establish right here, right now, that you were wrong and we were right.
He said
Well,
calculated.
no, because he didn't imagine it in his head. He drew it on paper. He measured. He took, like I said,
So he drew it on paper, he measured. So he didn't measure, he conceptualized with a pen and a piece of paper.
yeah, he makes
Oh,
observations.
right. Well, that's not good enough. That's not making a measurement, you absolute idiot. This is the point Anthony has been making that you're now refusing to concede. I wonder why.
You ask a question.
Geo, let me jump in real quick. Geo,
I am your favorite independent variable.
Geo, you and I
Go,
are
man.
gonna measure the distance to the sun. Okay.
Absolutely.
We both use the same 2 points. We are going to come to different results for one reason and one reason only. You are
Because you
going
need a third point.
You are going to incorporate R.
Actually, I think we'd only
You
get to
laugh it up,
different
Tim. Laugh it up, Tim.
sizes.
Laugh it up,
We'd only
Tim.
get to different
These
sizes.
guys are
for-
like little Nathan
Yeah, they're
pirates,
wrong.
man. This is really sad.
No, it's not. It's like me not being John. You're confusing people's names, Tim. Yeah, he's not. He's called The Plain Truth, and he's just schooled him completely. Completely and utterly schooled you globeheads like we do
Scientific
daily
You
here.
guys
laws.
know what you would need to do to find the size of the sun? Because I can
Kepler
explain it in 30
groupie.
seconds.
Without
Without
R,
using any tools.
without R, please.
You're a
It's
flat
six.
Earth groupie? Does that make you? I don't understand.
Yeah, I know you don't. It's okay.
Flat Earth groupie? Is that cute
Oh,
or cool or what?
Yeah.
You just deny everything? That you have absolutely no clue what you're
Do you have a
talking
rebuttal
about?
for him, Tim?
Yeah,
Is that
you're
it?
right.
Do you have a
You're right,
rebuttal,
Tim.
Tim?
You watched a
You're
few
right, Tim.
YouTube videos and
Tim,
you're a
do you
scientist
have an
now? You're an
actual
Yeah.
rebuttal? Tim, do you have an
Yeah.
actual rebuttal
You're a
to his claim?
geodesist.
Tim,
Are
do
we
you have an
gonna drop
actual
the point
rebuttal?
that Kepler measured anything?
No, listen. Whenever I say measure, okay, it doesn't mean that he got a tape measure out. I think that's the way
Yeah,
you
but
guys
that's
are
what
thinking.
That's
measuring
what
means.
measure means, man.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not.
doesn't
It's
mean
So
not.
when you
that.
say measure, you mean not measure.
Let me give,
Yeah, we get
let me
it.
give a 10-second
Measure
example,
doesn't mean
and if I'm
calculate.
wrong, I'll concede.
Geo,
Okay, 10
measure
seconds.
does
I'll
not mean
concede.
calculate, does it? Come on.
All right, let him
10
explain,
seconds and I'll
Anthony.
concede.
Let him explain.
Okay. So to measure the distance to the sun, okay, you might need. Let's say you already have R for the Earth. Forget about that.
No! Let's not say you've already got an R for Earth. That's our point. Don't just insert the presupposition and beg the question right at the beginning. What kind of an idiot are you? No, you don't just assume you've got an R value. If you're going to assume you've got an R value, prove it. Get some scientific evidence of the R value. That's the point the plain truth is making. Don't just tell us you're going to assume it anyway, you absolute retard.
Even though we're talking about Nathan, I'm talking about something else. How to make a measurement without using a tape measure. Okay, you would use, like, say, 2 sticks, and you have to point one to the sun and one at the moon.
God.
And you find the angle.
You still
That's a
need
measurement.
R.
I'm not talking about R. I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
we are. You need, for your sticks and shadows, to presuppose you've got a radius.
Yeah, like I said, I'm talking about measurements in general. You're
All
saying
right,
he's not making
all
any
right.
measurements. He is
Go.
making measurements without using a tape measure.
He's
You can
not
use
taking
2
measurements,
sticks
he's
to make
calculating.
measurements.
Geo,
Even if
it
it's
said he
not,
was
even if it's not
observing
the
and
distance, you're
calculating.
worried about the angle.
Geo, listen. It said he was observing and calculating. It did not use the word measurement. Should we do it again?
Yeah, you can.
And
It's
you're reading from
semantics at that
NASA
point.
website, right? You don't believe NASA, do you?
We're
Listen,
trying to debunk
just
this
let
crap.
Geo. Just
Sorry,
let
we're
Geo,
debunking sticks and shadows in the ground, Tim. So we're not claiming this as our proof of anything. We're debunking your nonsense.
That's a law of non-contradiction. You should look it up.
I'm not even talking about sticks and shadows in the ground. I'm talking about let's say all we were worried about was the ratio between the sun and the moon, not the size, not the distance, but just the ratio between them.
The problem, then, dude.
Well, no, that's the easy part. You can make that measurement from home without going anywhere. That tape measures anything, and that one you cannot disagree on.
Right, a ratio doesn't mean measurement.
That is a measurement. You say, hey,
No,
what's
it's
the
a
difference?
ratio.
What's the difference
It's a
between the size of
correlation.
the sun and the moon? That is a measurement.
No, it's a relative state. It's not a measurement.
It's a measurement. It's
So
compared
to define measure,
Yeah,
it's
ratio is not
ascertain
really
the
a
size, amount, or degree of something by using an instrument or device marked in standard units or by comparing it with an object of known size.
So what would the units of measurement be in the astronomical value?
Oopsies.
Oh,
Wrong
sorry.
again.
Do we know the size of the
Riley,
sun? Do
wrong
we?
again.
Hold on. Do we
You
know the
right
size
or
of the
wrong?
What do
sun?
you know?
Sorry, who's
Hang
got
on.
the
All
size
of
of the
wrong.
sun? Sorry, who's got the size of the sun? Do we know this? Do we already?
Well, you get the
Yes, we
size of the
did.
sun is what you get at
Refer
the
to
end.
science.
You
Sorry,
get the
tell
sun
us
that
the
has the size of the
science.
sun by knowing the distance.
Yeah, well, by knowing the
Oh
moon,
God, you
by
already
knowing
went
the
through
moon
with
size and
this.
distance.
Oh, why is it that Tim goes giggle, giggle, oh my god, every time we absolutely obliterate one of these arguments? Do you have a little giggle like a little schoolgirl, Tim? What gives? I don't really understand it.
Was it you? Well, even if it was,
It was.
requires the distance to know the actual size.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. It's called trig.
The angular size or the actual
Angular
size?
size requires. Yeah, it's a sum. It's not a measurement.
God, you're still holding on to these things, man. What is
No,
wrong?
he's correct. You're just being destroyed, Tim.
You need to know the distance, Tim, to get the actual size. It's like the moon. The actual size of the moon is subject to the distance, but the sun
In
and the moon
order-
look the same. So how can
in
you
order,
you
you first
deduce
need-
that they're the different distances when they're both the same size if you just merely measure their angle?
That's what I'm saying. And in
So isn't that
order,
what you did? Isn't that what you did at Isle of Man? Measure the angle
No,
to measure the height?
no,
It wasn't?
no.
Really?
Really?
Wasn't?
We never measured the height.
Geoptra?
No, we never measured the angle. We measured for the hill. That was the height of the hills, was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had a
darn.
physical size.
They were all
Shucks.
inaccurate.
Sorry,
They all got-
we had a physical tape measure running down it, so we actually had a measurement. If you want to show me a tape measure running between Earth and the Sun to prove your
Oh,
nonsense,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
absolutely
size and the
fine.
distance of the sun.
Yeah,
in that
where's
order.
your tape measure running
Gio,
to the
what
sun? We
size
ran a
is the moon
tape
if you
measure
don't know
down
the
that hill.
distance?
Oh,
No,
that's
you don't
funny.
need the distance. You get second. First, you get the size. The
Right, how
size
do you get the
first.
size
Then
without
you
Where'd you get
knowing
the size?
by knowing its ratio to the eclipse.
Yeah,
So
ratio
that's
won't
what
help you.
Aristarchus used. He used the Earth's shadow,
Gio,
and he measured how long it takes for the moon to go across that shadow, and then he divided that into the length of the.
that's going to give you the
moon's
relative
orbit.
state. It's not. It's going to give you a ratio or a scale. It's not going to give you a distance.
Right.
Right.
Well, it'll give you. Yeah, right. It'll give you the scale. First, you have to know the diameter of the Earth,
Right.
and then you
Go on.
and
What's
then
the
you
diameter
watch
of
it
the
go
Earth?
across its shadow.
What's the diameter of the Earth?
Twice R. So you take R and you multiply.
Oh, really?
right.
We're back to R this quickly, are we, dumbass?
Yeah, but R is really easy to get to. I told you guys this the other day,
Right,
and
so
you
how do
guys.
you get to
Yeah,
R?
that's why we keep asking for the scientific evidence of R, and we never ever get any.
Just going to get to R.
Yeah, so there's 3 ways that I know of that you can do it, and if you did it all 3 ways and you got the same number, then you'd have to be pretty confident with that number.
Okay,
No.
so let's do one of the ways.
Measure the,
Okay.
the
I
equator.
explained this, and you guys laughed, and you guys screamed
So
at me.
let's
got
do it
offended.
again. You think there's 3 ways
Use-
to calculate the R
Yes.
value?
There's
Use
many more
three
ways, actually.
objects. 3 objects,
And I
whatever
bet
you
all
want to
3
be.
of them have got the presupposition.
Know the size,
Yeah.
know the distance away from each other, and know the time. And do it at the
Right, so
exact
come
same
on, let's
time.
talk through the first one.
Yeah, that's it. That's the
What's
first
your
one.
object, Gio? What's your object?
Well, if I say the word, you guys will get really upset. So let's just say they're
Man up, dude. Man up.
they're long, skinny poles. Okay.
So you mean really big sticks? Really big sticks
That's right.
this time.
When I
Dude,
explain
if
this
flat
to you
Earth
after the
put sticks
show,
on the ground and
it
said
made
the
more
Earth was
sense
flat,
to you
would
than
you
it did on the
accept it?
show.
So, what's the observed phenomena?
Sticks in the ground.
Poles, sticks, whatever you want to call them. And I'll tell you that the measurements that you get afterwards
Hold
would
on.
not apply
Hold
to a
on.
flat Earth.
So, the observation, the observed phenomena is sticks in the ground, right?
No, it's calculated.
Well, the
You don't
shadows
need a
that
phenomena for a
the
calculation.
light
It's
makes.
shadows,
time.
dude.
We're just
Yeah.
doing
An
the
angle.
basic trig. So come on, we see the sticks in the ground, right? So we
Well, you
observe
watch the shadows. You measure the shadows of each one,
Yeah,
and because there's 3 or more,
yeah.
you're not going to get the same phenomena as you would if it were flat. So this would make both observations distinct. Right away, you'd be able to tell.
Right.
Right away,
If
you'd be
we were on
able
a
to tell what
sphere,
you're dealing
there would be evidence for that, wouldn't there? Do you have any evidence that anybody's done 3 sticks in the ground and then deduced?
Yeah, there's several people have. There's a dude, that Sly dude. I never watched the
Sly
show.
Spartane did, many different reference points.
Yeah, he didn't.
Oh,
he
yeah,
didn't
we
do
had
that
him
one.
on.
He did
I
a different
remember. We went
experiment.
through it. He said he got an experiment, and then it actually transpired that he didn't have an experiment because an experiment...
Do you have an experiment?
Sorry, let's not have a burden of proof reversal while I'm tearing Sly a new one. No. We had Sly on. He was here, and we tried to establish what his hypothesis was. And the reason for establishing his hypothesis is simple, because an experiment is the expression of a hypothesis. So when it transpired that Sly didn't have a hypothesis, we concluded, correctly so, that what he was doing was in no way scientific.
This is like 1,000th time that he said this on his show. It's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't even bring up an experiment. I was just letting you know there's 3 different ways.
Yeah, you said Sly did it, and we had Sly on to talk about his experiment. So you referenced Sly.
Well, you asked me if anyone's ever done this.
Yeah, and you referenced Sly, and we pointed out that Sly didn't have a valid scientific hypothesis for his quasi-experiment. It wasn't an experiment because an experiment is very specific. It is the expression of a hypothesis.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's another time. This is probably the 4th time you've done that. Every time we get you to the wall, Tim, you go, oh my God. Like we've claimed something outrageous. Yeah, Sly didn't have a valid scientific hypothesis. He didn't have science backing this. It's not science, right?
Can an observation be taken as proof?
If it's repeatable,
like I said,
if it's repeatable, yes.
No. Scientific evidence is what we want from you globeheads. And why? Well, because you claim to be backed by science. So the standard is set.
You
what?
If the observations are repeatable, then yes, they can be trusted.
No. Repeatability is not the only criteria for being scientific. Yeah? Repeated experimentation. So, in order to be scientific, it has to be subject to systematic experimentation. To validate, guess what? The hypothesis. Something that Sly was sorely lacking.
Jesus.
Jesus, man. How is it that we're getting obliterated daily by these flat earthers? I don't know. It's terrible, really, isn't it?
Well, you guys are convinced that we don't have R of the Earth after
you
all
don't.
these years and getting the same number.
Do you want to give it us then?
Closer
Give it
time?
us. Give us your scientific
In many
evidence of
different
R.
ways.
Give us it. What is it? We've just gone through Sly, so you've asserted that you can do experiments, and then Sly was one guy who'd done them. No, he hasn't. So what's the other 2? Let's have a listen to your scientific evidence of the R value you presuppose for a ball Earth.
Just let them sit here and tear at each other's throats here.
We're not
No
tearing at
need
each other's
to
throats.
get harassed.
We're
No,
tearing
you will
you and
when
you
we
want
leave,
him.
though.
We've pointed out your idiocy and where you don't even understand when you're assuming R. So we're not tearing each other apart. We're tearing you. You specifically, and you asshole, daily. This is the 2nd day in a row we have made you look absolutely stupid because you don't even know where you're assuming a value of R. So don't claim we're tearing each
You
other
go
apart.
back and listen to this. You re-listen to this, okay?
Yeah,
And you
listen
let
hard.
me know if
will.
any
Thanks.
sentence can even be spoken without this idiot John Stunja parrot going off and off. Like, dude,
Okay, but
go listen to it again.
all right, but like
Go
before,
listen to it.
when you first came in, we asked you what was the observation that Cavendish made that made him do that experiment? And so far, we haven't gotten any response to that.
I did. I told you,
Any-
but you didn't like my answer. I told you before you even
What was
came
your
on.
answer?
It's just from 300 years or maybe whenever Cavendish did, I think in the 1800s sometime. So about 200 more years of other observations people made, and then
What?
whenever we start out,
Don't tell us
Kepler's
there were.
observations was a
Yeah,
lifetime.
What
what
observations
would those be?
What observations? Don't tell us there are
Things
observations.
falling, the planets orbiting the sun.
Let's clear something up really quickly. Do you guys understand what the torsion balance is doing in this experiment?
No, we don't.
Is it showing the observed phenomena of objects falling down towards the ground? Because apparently the observed phenomena is objects falling to the ground. So is it an experiment to establish the cause and effect of the phenomena of objects falling to the ground? Yes or no?
The audience can't hear.
The observation is an object at rest stays at rest. That is the observation. And based on that, he tested that claim.
No, his objects weren't at rest. So they weren't isolated from all the different variables inside the shed he put it in. So they weren't at rest. There was air pressure around it for a start.
No.
Yeah.
That's controlled for.
Yeah,
That's
no, he
controlled
wasn't.
for.
The shed isn't a control.
He controls
Yeah?
for the
You
gravity.
think the
of
shed
the
is a
Earth, too?
control for air pressure? So you're saying that he managed to get a vacuum shed?
And the same
Milo,
thing caused the air pressure.
Any response to
he
that?
control
So
the
do you
gravity of
think
the
the
Earth,
shed was a control for air pressure? Yes or
It
no?
doesn't need a control. It's been controlled for already.
Oh,
Nathan,
it doesn't
he's not the only
need
person to do it.
controls. Of course, this is science where we don't keep control of our variables. My bad.
The pressure at sea level doesn't
These people are
fluctuate.
not interested in learning anything.
He's not the only person
Yeah,
to do
we're
it.
interested in schooling you. We're not here to learn from you, retards. You don't even understand where you presuppose are, Tim. You're not teaching us anything.
The pressure
We're
at
schooling
sea level
you.
does not
We're
fluctuate.
schooling you on your omission of
Tim,
perspective. We're schooling you on your presupposition of R, which you don't understand and have demonstrated 2 days on the trot. That's what we're doing. We're not learning from you. We're schooling you. So listen up, because we're telling you what's what here. The Earth is flat. You guys have got nothing but presupposition and beliefs. So understand it. You don't have to like it. The Earth is flat.
Experiments every day. I mean,
Someone was asking me a question.
Yeah, you said that
tons of
the air
observations.
pressure. Okay, thanks, Tim. You said that the air pressure
welcome.
at
You're
sea
welcome.
level.
You're welcome.
Yeah. You were saying?
Yeah, you like it? This is what happens to us every time we speak. You like it? Or are you going to cry about it?
I'm
Little
not
truck
crying
driver.
about it. I'm not crying about it.
You're about to. Don't get triggered, bro.
No, I'm not. Please stop,
Oh,
Tim.
Nobody's getting
don't get
triggered.
triggered, bro.
Literally
Okay,
nobody here's triggered.
Milo, you said
Yeah.
that the experiment was done, or actually, you said that the air pressure at sea level is the same, right?
Well, I didn't say that, but
As what?
Gio said.
Oh, that was Geo. Okay, well, I was okay.
But
So-
anyways, either way, this air pressure has been controlled for in different experiments of this of the Cavendish, so we can eliminate air pressure and see the
You
same
mean the
results.
one? You mean the one that I saw where the guy had it on the floor in his science lab, and he was like
No,
walking
they do
back
it
and
thousands of times, man.
They've
a
done it
year
in,
at
vacuum
least. They do it in
chambers.
high schools. They do it in colleges. They
forth.
do it
Right, right,
in
and they
vacuum chambers. But you don't
Yeah.
do any research counter to your flat Earth belief. So that's why you're stuck in this rut, buddy.
But the phenomena
they've
is
done this-
objects
thanks,
falling to
buddy.
the ground.
Thanks,
Why is
buddy.
it,
It's funny.
why
It's
is this
funny how
valid?
the only time we experience mass attracting mass is when we're doing the experiment to prove that mass.
I wonder
attracts
why.
mass.
Maybe because of the
Yeah,
torsion
I wonder
balance.
why. Because that doesn't happen in
Maybe
real life.
because we're standing on a giant mass. Maybe
Yeah, maybe if we presuppose that we're standing on a giant mass and then have an affirming the consequent and say that if objects of mass attract one another, then we have gravity, and then go out and set out proving it with something that doesn't conform with the observed phenomena, objects falling to the ground, because it's a contraption that some guy set up in his shed and didn't isolate any of his actual variables. So this is utter, total nonsense.
he's got us muted and just clowning, dude.
No, I haven't. I'm just
No,
talking,
you're
Tim.
not. You're not muted.
You're just
What's your
being
question?
talked over.
No, he mutes
because
on his
I want to be
OBS, dude.
heard. Yeah, I
like
want to be
in-
heard while I
in real
school
life-
you. And all you've got to say
in
is
real
these guys
life-
don't want to learn. That's all you've got to say, Tim.
Chocolate's got a question.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Thank you, unbiased moderator. Okay, go ahead and ask the question.
In real life, where do we see mass attracting other mass?
I guess pretty much every day, everything is attracted to the giant
name
mass that we're
something.
standing on.
Oh,
Oh,
so
you're-
that requires a presupposition that we're standing on a giant spherical mass, does it, Tim? What a shock. That took long to
Okay.
get to the presupposition of
Okay,
R,
but
didn't it?
gravitational
everything?
pull between masses is a thing, right? So other than being attracted to the Earth that you say it is, what else is attracted to something else? What other mass? Where name an example, please.
Every other mass is
So
attracted.
everything that's on the Earth is attracted to the Earth, right? Even
And supposed to
satellites
be
in
attracted
the
to everything
space
else,
are
right?
attracted to the Earth.
Or mostly.
And is
Yeah.
and is also attracted to everything
Yes,
else, right?
But Chocolate's question has to do with two mass objects that are held above the floor,
I'm gonna
negating
pull up some
gravity.
experiments.
Hold on.
You don't
Chocolate-
negate gravity on Earth, buddy.
Right.
How
Okay,
is the
wait.
gravity between? How is the gravity between two objects enough to literally overcome the gravity of the Earth
Listen.
and move towards each other instead of moving towards the Earth?
This is
Alright,
this
so-
is what you guys look. For flat earthers, you can't just deny gravity. What you're denying on the heart of it, with your conflation, is mass attracting mass. If you want to say density, buoyancy, electromagnetism, that's fine. I'm just saying, don't.
It's not. That's total horseshit. That's been superseded. So why do you think Einstein came along and said that gravity was the bending of space-time? Do you think it's because mass attracts mass?
Those are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, they are. They're two totally different things, Tim. They are mutually exclusive. They are separate and very different. One
Prove it.
is... Well, I can just say it. I can just say it.
Prove it.
One,
Prove it.
I'm just saying it. You haven't let me say it.
Prove it.
One is specifically mass attracting mass.
Prove
the other
it.
is the bending of space-time. They are two different things.
Prove it.
Prove what? They're two different, totally different things. I don't need to prove
No,
that
they're
an
not.
apple isn't
They're
an
not mutually
orange.
exclusive.
I can say one is an apple, one is an orange. They are different. One is mass attracting mass. The other is the bending of space-time. These two things are different.
No,
It just shows how little you know about this subject.
Let me go back to the question on Cavendish, Tim. The experiment was on the lateral attraction, not the perpendicular. It was on the mass objects attracting each other. That's not gravity. Gravity
It's been done
doesn't.
the other way too. It's been done the other way too, with the mass under another mass.
Okay, listen, stop.
the
Right. Listen, I'm not talking about the other thing. Okay,
It's been done
please.
both ways.
Okay,
Mass
yes. Okay,
attraction, yes. The torsion
Okay.
balance is negating the Earth's gravitational pull. Thus, the objects are going to be pulled towards each other.
Okay,
It's-
listen, hold on real quick. I just want to say you can go back, I think, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and you said you can't negate gravity. You said it.
Okay, somebody was saying that they would stand there and have a ball in their hand or something, or like iron balls in their hand. I'm saying, no, you can't negate gravity that way. And it's not negating gravity. I mean, in a general sense, it's
Controlling for it.
just, yeah, it's basically negating it in one sense, absolutely. But
then,
obviously
Tim,
the apparatus is still being affected by gravity.
So then, Tim, I'm trying to explain to me then, like, if I had a bowling ball and a marble sitting, I don't know, maybe 5 inches from each other, how long would it take for the torsion balance to overcome the gravity and they would start moving towards each other?
Yeah, the Earth's gravity is gonna be pulling them down.
The gravitational force of the Earth's gravity is going to be much more, dude.
If you were to make a diagram of this,
Right. So then,
it would
so
show
then how
a
does the
force.
No, he's
where
saying
does the
if
torsion balance come in?
you're saying if it's on a torsion balance, how long would it take for the balls to attract each other? Is that what you're asking?
No, well, he said that that's how mass would attract other mass, right? Is the
Right.
torsion balance. So I'm
Yeah,
trying to
well-
understand where would that kick in, and it would overcome the gravity of the Earth.
Well, what you have to understand is that if there was no force, you would not see any movement.
What's up, buddy? Hold on a second, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So again, the question does become, when do you know during the experiment when gravity has become controlled?
It doesn't need to be controlled. They're
It's not
going in
touching the
different
ground.
directions.
It's just
Yeah,
not
what-
touching the ground anymore. That's when it's
Well,
been
no,
controlled.
Well,
You guys
so-
deny things that you don't even know, like
Tim,
the base level of it, dude.
Tim, I'm-
Sorry, so we're being called deniers when we get to the point where we ask whether or not you have isolated it, right? So you haven't isolated it, and we're just being called deniers. Is that what's happening
No.
here?
One's going straight down and one's going perpendicular to that.
That you're not
And so
addressing.
it's-
You're not addressing what the plain truth has pointed out, though, are you? Do you want to just
show you
point it?
300 feet
Hold
of
on.
curvature.
Hold on. Do you want to just point it out again,
And you
plain
deny
truth?
it.
Because they clearly didn't hear you.
I show you a sunset, and you
No,
deny
Tim,
it.
not you,
I
Tim.
show
It's
you
okay,
two
Tim.
celestial points,
No
and you
need,
deny
Tim,
it.
to go on about your babble about celestial points, right? I'm going to get a plain truth to repeat his assertion, please.
I'm simply asking, at one point in your experiment, do you know when gravity has been controlled?
Okay, I'm telling you real quick, very simply. Gravity of the Earth is always going to be going straight down to any position. Okay, and so that's why they're getting at a direction that's perpendicular to this. So anytime that the force is happening perpendicular to the one that's going straight down, that's when they know. That's why that's how they're controlling for it, and that's how they know it's coming from a different direction.
So they're not
So
isolating it.
any perpendicular force that you see is not the force of gravity of the Earth. So, because the force of gravity of the Earth is pulling it down, not perpendicular. So, when you see a perpendicular force, you know it's not the gravity of the Earth.
When do we see that perpendicular force? When do we see that objects of mass attract one another and it's not moving down towards Earth? When do we see that?
In the
On a torsion balance using
in the experiment, back to what I originally asserted. So, we're affirming the consequent. We're not observing a phenomena. We're taking the experiment to be the phenomena.
Nathan.
What do you mean, Nathan? Yes, we are affirming the consequent here. We are saying if I've eaten a 12-inch pizza, then I'm full. I am full, therefore I've eaten a 12-inch pizza. Objects of mass will attract towards each other. Not on the downward, which was originally what you said was your observed phenomena. It seems it's not. We've now got something perpendicular to that. But when we ask you what your observed phenomena for that is, you tell us it's the experiment itself. So we're not actually doing science, lads. We're affirming the consequent with a formological fallacy. Fallacious arguments is why you get shut down and shown to be stupid because you don't understand what a logical fallacy is.
You watch the sunset in the English.
Oh, here we go. We're on to the sunsets. Tim wants to talk about sunsets now because we've got on to the point. The point that Cavendish is a formological... Do you have to talk over me, Tim?
Please
do you
don't
have to
say
me?
that.
Mate.
Nathan, I can answer your question, though, about...
There is no question. I'm stating a fact. This is a formological fallacy. That's what you are doing. You are affirming the consequent. You are saying if objects of mass attract one another, not downwards, yeah? That's not what we're doing. You've just explained that. When you see them attracting naturally, you know that that's not gravity, because we've negated gravity. Oh, where'd you observe that? In the Cavendish experiment. Oh, right. That makes a whole bunch of sense now, doesn't it? Yeah, we'll say that the experiment is our observed phenomena because we're retards. Yeah? That's why you get me jumping down your throat, and why Tim has to babble on non-stop about the celestial poles.
You've never done an experiment ever in your life, have you, Nathan?
Sorry, this is the experiment we're detailing that you are claiming proves gravity. And we're proving, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that it's not an experiment. It doesn't have a formulated scientific hypothesis. It is a formological fallacy. You are affirming the consequent, because you never observed the phenomena of objects of mass attracting one another.
Here.
Is that method from the University of Rochester? Is that the scientific method you're using?
Sorry, this isn't my experiment. Why are you asking me what scientific method I'm using for the Cavendish experiment?
Sure, but Nathan, I have a different experiment, so we can move on from that one.
No, we can't. We're going to stick on the point that Cavendish proves nothing, even though you guys have asserted that it's some sort of proof of gravity. What it is a logical fallacy. It affirms the consequent. That's all it does. It doesn't prove a damn thing because you are taking your experiment to be your observed phenomena, something I asserted quite some time ago. Now we've got to the nitty-gritty of this, perhaps with some of you actually understanding what's going on.
Oh, you got us muted.
Oh, we got
just
Sniper.
talking to the chat.
Nathan, we didn't observe X-rays before we discovered it. So what do you say to that?
I don't care. We're not talking about X-rays. We're talking about the Cavendish experiment, which proves nothing.
Hopefully someone sniped that guy.
You're saying there needs to be an observation. You're saying there needs to be an observation.
Yeah, observed phenomena.
The experiment can even be
yeah, and when I asked you what your observed phenomena is, was for when things have been negating gravity because they're working horizontal to it, then you've got an observed phenomena you need. And what is your observed phenomena? The Cavendish experiment.
That's a phenomena that needs to be explained.
No, that's your experiment. You dumbasses don't listen.
No, I have something.
Do you understand yet? It's not your observed phenomena, it's your experiment. Do you understand yet?
Nathan,
is this sinking in?
What's from the University of Rochester? Did you confirm that? I didn't hear.
This is not my experiment.
Yeah, it's wherever Quantum Eraser cherry picked it from.
This is
basically.
not my experiment. I'm not making any claims here. You are claiming you have an experiment, and then you simultaneously talk over me while I point out that it's not an experiment. You are, in fact, using the experiment as the observed phenomena.
Nathan, I'm trying to use your show as productively. I mean, we're going over the same thing. I'm trying to give you.
Yeah, you keep bringing up the same crap, and we keep debunking it.
No, I'm trying to give you what you're asking for, Nathan. There's other examples.
Well, give me scientific evidence of R, then. Give it me. Scientific evidence of R or gravity.
Yes,
Anthony, I tested the Metabunk calculator with...
Oh, we're on to Metabunk now. Tim doesn't like this Cavendish being smashed to living daylights out of, even though it's the proof of you guys being able to measure the weight of Mars. This is what Cavendish is used for. We've just smashed it into a million pieces. Now Tim wants to talk about Metabunk. Now, Tim, we're going to stick with Cavendish until you concede that it is not in any way scientific and is not actually an experiment. It is, in fact, a logical fallacy. It's a logical fallacy, and I want some concessions out of the retards currently on the panel who think incorrectly that this is actually an experiment for something. You're just going to talk constantly over the top of me. I want some concessions from you retards.
Yes, I will concede to you right now. If this is not a real experiment, but there's a satellite, okay?
Sorry, what's not a real experiment?
Yes, and then they go over the Grace measuring device. It's 2 satellites in space.
You seem to be changing the subject. I've already explained that we are going to stay here until you retards concede that the Cavendish experiment is not scientific proof of anything.
How can we get anywhere if we don't even get a chance?
You can get somewhere because we've just spent about half an hour on this. So we're going nowhere unless you either sod off or concede that you are wrong about Cavendish proving anything.
I would be being dishonest to myself if I conceded before I got a chance to answer you.
You don't need to answer anything. I'm stating a fact. I'll state it again, and you either concede or we could do this indefinitely. Cavendish is not scientific proof of gravity.
Sorry to the people watching this show. This is really sad. Of course it is.
Sorry, was that your concession, was it? Oh, we're all disappearing. So your panel dropping one by one, are they? While I hold your toes to the fire. I don't mind if you all sod off and I end up on my own. You going to drop Tim, or are you going to concede that Cavendish is not actually an experiment that proves anything?
Uh-oh. There might be a sniper. It is.
Sorry, how is an affirming the consequent proof when you don't have an observed phenomena?
It's not an affirming the consequent.
Yes, it is, because you use the experiment itself as the observed phenomena.
What was that? The Cavendish experiment is an observed phenomenon, Nathan.
No, it's an experiment. By your own language, you're calling it the Cavendish experiment, not the Cavendish observed phenomena, you idiot. How long is it going to take for you retards to concede this?
Experiments can produce phenomena.
An experiment can produce a phenomena, can it? Do you want to take me to a citation on that, you absolute buffoon?
Well, how do you think we discovered X-rays?
How do you think we? No. An experiment is an experiment. It is the expression of your hypothesis. That is what an experiment is. It is not an observed phenomena.
How do you think we discovered X-rays?
I don't want a question. I'm waiting for a concession from you retards that you do not have a scientifically valid experiment in Cavendish, because it is a formal logical fallacy. You are affirming the consequent when you use the experiment as the observed phenomena.
Yeah, when we
so you're going to concede that it doesn't prove gravity, or are you going to argue with me for the next 10 minutes of the show?
When we discovered X-rays, the experiment...
Not X-rays. Cavendish. Try to open your ears. I understand how difficult it is for you to concede this. Yeah? And I don't mind doing it indefinitely till the show runs out of time. But we will stay here till you either drop or concede that it is not scientific proof of gravity. It's not science.
Don't kick me. Don't kick me.
Hey, Travis.
The experiment produces a phenomena the same way.
No, experiments don't produce phenomena. They test cause and effect.
So how did we figure?
Don't ask me any questions. You're here to concede that Cavendish is not scientific proof of anything.
How did we discover X-rays?
I don't care. We're not talking about X-rays, you complete idiot. We are talking about how Cavendish is a formal logical fallacy because it is affirming its own consequent by using the experiment as the phenomena.
Is that dark?
No, that's me, Travis. Milo, my question to you is, okay,
What's up,
you're bringing up X-rays,
Right.
okay?
Why do you think I'm bringing them up? No, I want to see if you understand
Distraction.
why I'm bringing it up.
Just a distraction rather than conceding that you're wrong, because I think you're just basically an idiot and can't concede. For some reason, you guys don't have enough intellectual honesty to concede when you're wrong.
Okay. So why do you think
It's not
brought it up?
If you had intellectual honesty, you'd actually concede and say I'm wrong.
Mark, is that you, Mark?
No.
Stop trying to host my show, right? Stop asking people. I'll do that, thank you, Milo. Right? You're just here to concede that Cavendish is
I have
not
the exact
proof.
phenomena that he used. I just found it in a book. Okay.
Right.
Trying to explain the repulsion. He was actually doing a totally different something. He was observing something different. He was trying to isolate this, but he was checking out the repulsion of electrified bodies. He introduced local concentrations or deficiencies of electric fluid in space, initially filled with electric fluid of uniform density.
What are you talking about? The Cavendish experiment is a torsion bar experiment with balls suspended from a torsion bar, not anything to do with electromagnetic fluids. What the bloody hell are you babbling about?
This is something he was working on before.
Well, we're not interested in what he was working on before. What the bloody hell are you talking about, you absolute buffoon?
I'm trying to answer your question. You want to see what he was observing?
No, you've just said this is a totally different experiment that he was doing before. Some ham-handed segue to try and get around the fact that we're getting you to concede that the Cavendish experiment, by name, was not scientific proof.
Nathan, the Cavendish experiment produces a phenomena just like other.
You can't produce a phenomena with an experiment. It is the expression of your hypothesis.
I'll take you back to X-rays. Learn about them.
No, I don't need to be taken back to X-rays. I need you to concede that it is not scientific, rather than telling my audience that you're using the experiment as the phenomena. That's why it's a logical fallacy. But you just keep saying it like it's some sort of justification.
Yeah, well, you want to read it, Nathan? I put it in the chat for you.
I don't need you to put anything in the chat, thank you very much. Just tell me.
My question, Milo, my question to you is, was the discovery of X-rays what the original experiment was trying to do?
The point is that the experiment produced the phenomena that led to X-rays.
Okay, you're not listening to me
hold
again,
up,
please.
No, hold up. No, you got to listen to me. Without the experiment, we would not know about X-rays.
Okay,
so the first time we've ever seen.
Yes, but that experiment wasn't an experiment on X-rays. They may have discovered something else whilst doing a different, unrelated experiment that was indeed scientific, and by a byproduct discovered X-rays. But they're not studying X-rays when they discovered X-rays, are they?
Okay, you're asking me.
Not okay. You need to concede and say yes, that's correct, Nathan. They weren't actually studying X-rays when they discovered X-rays, but in the Cavendish experiment, they seem to be discovering gravity while they're experimenting on gravity.
Let me tell you something, Travis.
No, concede that by discovering X-rays whilst doing a different scientific experiment, it is not qualifiable or quantifiable to an experiment on gravity that proves gravity.
Okay, I'll show you why.
Let's just say real quick, if gravity was density and buoyancy,
okay,
how would you experiment it?
Who keeps
Nathan?
kicking everybody?
How would you experiment that?
Who keeps kicking everybody?
Somebody does.
I don't know. Not me. So if density and buoyancy was the cause of what we call gravity, colloquially, how would you go about experimenting that?
He's going to say he doesn't know and he doesn't want to know. That's what he's going to say.
It'd just be helpful if he could formulate how he would actually experiment for density and buoyancy if that was the case.
We're not experimenting on density and buoyancy. This is just a red herring. Rather than you conceding...
No, just if it was... If it was,
I don't care. I'm asking about why you won't concede that Cavendish is not a scientifically valid experiment.
You won't answer that, will you?
No, we're not talking about this subject. We're talking about very specifically Cavendish. This ham-handed segue is not going to work, Tim. It's
not
pathetic.
Actually.
Yeah, it is. It's
Very
ham-handed.
applicable to
Very
what we're talking
ham-handed.
about.
Oh, really? We're talking about Cavendish.
If
Travis.
mass attraction, let's just say if mass attraction
We might have
is
to wait,
actually what we
Milo.
call
We might have to
gravity,
That's an affirming the consequence. If gravity, when you start with that presupposition, you are then setting out to confirm your presupposition. That is, by definition, a formal logical fallacy, affirming the consequent. If we have gravity, objects of mass will attract one another. Objects of mass attract one another in the Cavendish experiment, therefore gravity. This is a logical fallacy. It doesn't seem to matter how many times I point it out to you. You just tell me that it's okay, man. The experiment can be the observed phenomena. That's cool, man. That's science. Yeah,
Show
it
us an
isn't.
experiment that doesn't do this, that doesn't affirm
Yeah.
the consequent.
exactly,
That doesn't
hypothesis.
exist.
You
That's
have
what
to
exactly what a
observe
experiment
the
hypothesis is.
that the
phenomena
hypothesis
first.
wouldn't be affirming the consequence.
Where's your
That's what a
phenomena?
hypothesis is.
Where's your phenomena that you're observing?
Nah, see, now you're trying to get out of it.
No, I'm asking a direct question. We've got an experiment. Where's the phenomena?
Mass attracting mass. That's the phenomena.
No, that's an assumption. You're making that statement, not scientifically validating that presumption. You're making it as a statement and then going forward to set out to prove your assumptive statement. Yeah, that's what a logical fallacy is. Oh my God, we're literally going to round out this show with me having spent 20 minutes trying to get you guys to
What
recognise
is
a
a
logical
hypothesis,
fallacy.
Nathan?
Pardon?
What is a hypothesis?
It's the expression of what you will go forward and do as an experiment. It establishes the independent and dependent variable. Yeah? It is the expression of the cause and effect relationship that you plan on going forward to experiment.
Yeah, it affirms the consequent. That's what it does. It's an
No, it establishes a cause and effect, a presumed cause being the independent variable, something that you A must be able to manipulate and B is your presumed cause. So, in the Cavendish experiment, according to you guys, the thing you manipulate is mass. So mass is the cause of the effect. But you guys then say gravity, not mass, even though that's the thing you're manipulating.
Will you
So now we
concede
know-
that
You
your
just
scientific
contradicted
method
yourself
isn't
the
the only
whole
scientific method?
show.
Will you
Yeah.
concede?
So now we know that a hypothesis is a presumption.
No, it's a presumed cause and effect relationship, not just a presumption. You don't just presume something. You're planning on experimenting and either nullifying or confirming your hypothesis. The hypothesis doesn't prove anything. That's why you have an alternate hypothesis and a null hypothesis. The
So
null,
what's the problem?
He's
the
just
null
now
and
giving
the
out
alternative
keywords.
don't in and of themselves prove things. The experiment
Exactly.
proves things.
He just contradicted himself this
I
time.
haven't contradicted myself in the slightest.
The heck are you? What do you think you're saying that that goes against what we think a hypothesis is? A
A
hypothesis,
hypothesis establishes a cause and effect relationship. You have both an alternative and a null hypothesis. The two are completely and totally contradictory. When you go forward and experiment, you establish whether or not your presumed cause does have the effect that you presumed in the hypothesis. The hypothesis has a mirror, the null.
Nathan, we presume that mass attracts mass. That's a presumption in our hypothesis.
Okay.
So we have to.
Right, so therefore you would also have a null hypothesis. Yeah? If mass then attraction also has a null. The null being if mass no attraction.
No.
Yeah, that's... What do you mean no? Oh my God. I think that is about as much as I can take from these complete retards. You know, I explain what a null hypothesis is because they think that hypothesis actually explains something. When you have a mirror of a hypothesis, the alternative is mirrored by the null. Something that shows you that you have the complete antithesis of what you predict, so that when you experiment, which is scientific, with systematic experimentation, you can actually either validate or invalidate your hypothesis by confirming or denying the null hypothesis, which is the opposite of what you presume. So if you presume mass attracts mass, you have a null hypothesis that says if mass, no attraction. And you have to go through both You guys just make an assumption. It is absolutely pathetic. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience. If I can get my light to come on. Yeah. I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, then be sure to hit the dislike button. But if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!